الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. Last week we started the Tafseer on Surah Falaq, chapter 113 of the Quran. And last week I mentioned the historical background of the surah when the surah was revealed, how the Jews tried to hire Labid bin Asim to harm Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through revelation protected and revealed these verses of the Quran. By reciting these verses of the Quran, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was cured and was protected. So we mentioned last week was talking about the Rabbil Falaq. Falaq had different meanings of one, which was to tear something open, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Rabbil Falaq. He tears. You even have all the darkness on one side, Allah will tear through this darkness and remove all the obstacles and all the barriers and all the evil. There's one thing I wanted to forgot to mention regarding the first verse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Qul. Now, many places in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word Qul, to say. In different parts of the Quran, this has different benefits. So I'd just like to mention what are the benefits of saying Qul here. Qul means to say. So the Mufassirun have mentioned here that إن الله تعالى يريد من الإنسان أن يعلن صراحة عن ضعفه بلسانه أو عن ضعفه بلسانه. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala desires that the human being, he openly expresses his weakness with his tongue. Now if you look many a times, a person is in need of help, but because of his ego, because of his arrogance, he refuses to ask anyone for help. Or even if the case arises when a person is willing to ask someone, he doesn't express himself loudly, quietly he mumbles or whispers to someone, he asks for help. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he denies that we openly express ourselves and that we ask the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So by doing this, one's own ego, one's arrogance, the pride a person has, this will take away one's pride, one's ego. Another benefit of this is that وَالشُّعُورُ الْكَاذِبُ بِالْإِسْتِغْنَاءِ, that a person has this false sense of protection. I don't need anyone else. I alone am enough. I don't need anyone's help. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, كَلَّا إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَيَطْغَى, verily the human being, he is rebellious. أَرَّآهُ اسْتَغْنَى, that he sees himself as mustaghni, as independent, that he doesn't need anyone else. So when we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the false sense of protection, this is also taken away. Another point, the benefit of saying Qul, that this is a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the verb is used is a command. So when we comply with this command and we recite this verse, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ, we are actively fulfilling a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also, another point is that this is also a ta'at, an obedience. When we recite this verse, we are fulfilling the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we are seeking refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to understand that when you seek help from anyone, then you cannot ask anyone for somebody's help and then be disobedient to that person. If you are asking for help from somebody, you are asking assistance, then you have to be obedient to that person. Also, when we are asking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to receive that help. If we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we'll only receive this refuge when we are obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not just we can recite this verse, but at the same whilst reciting this verse, we have to also be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Otherwise, how can we ask the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seek refuge in Allah, and at the same time we are being disobedient to Him? So this also includes the ita'ah, the obedience. So this was the first verse, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. Now what are we seeking refuge from? The first thing means شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ. Now let's look at the word shar. The word shar has been mentioned, has been used multiple times in the surah. So now in the Arabic, you have three different words for evil or bad. One is shar, another word is sa'a, and another word is bi'sa. Now what are the differences and what do they mean? We start with the word bi'sa. When you find something, okay, what are the differences in these three words? All three of these have different antonyms. From a vocabulary point of view, the three have different antonyms. So the opposite of bi'sa is ni'ma. So what does bi'sa mean? When you find something deplorable and you dislike something, then you'd use the word bi'sa. Or the same way, the word ni'ma, when you find something very impressive, then you'd use the word ni'ma. So example, you had something to drink and it tasted really bad and you absolutely hated it, then you'd say bi'sa sharab. That drink was awful. Same way, ni'ma, if you find something very impressive and you like it, you imagine you had some lassi or something, it tasted very nice, you'd say ni'ma sharab. Moving on, the word sa'a is also used for bad and evil, and the word opposite of sa'a is hasuna. Now sa'a is used when the action itself is ugly, hideous. So for example, and from this you get different variations of the word sa'a, sayyi'a, etc. For example, just take a evil act, you take backbiting, for example, you say this is a sayyi'a. The action itself is ugly, it's hideous. And the word shar, the opposite of this is khayr. What does shar mean? Shar is something which is unanimously, universally accepted as something which is bad and something which is harmful. So this is what shar is. Everybody accepts that whatever shar is used for is something which is bad and which is harmful. That's why from the word shar, you get the word sharara. Sharara is the spark of a flame which burns. You get a fire sometimes, and then you get those sparks that come out from the fire. This is the sparks that come out and burn. This is called sharara. So so shar is something which is unanimously accepted as something which is harmful and bad. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, the first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, min sharri ma khalaq, from the evil of that which He has created. Ma khalaq. So here, one thing to notice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say min sharri al-makhluq, from the evil of the creation, but He said min sharri ma khalaq, from the evil of that which He created. Okay, one thing the scholars mention here regarding this is that even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is creator of each and every single thing, but as out of respect, we do not attribute evil to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do not attribute bad things to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's right, when you look in the Quran, when Ibrahim alayhi salam, he's talking, he says, وَإِذَا مَرِضْتُ فَهُوَ يَشْفِينِ. When I fall ill, it is Allah who cures me. Even though the illness is from Allah, but when he does not attribute the marad to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, وَإِذَا مَرِضْتُ. When I fall ill, then He is the one that cures me. Some of the scholars have said, like the evil itself is not an entity by itself. Like you have light and darkness. Darkness is not an entity by itself, but because of the lack of light, then we have darkness. Similarly, because of the lack of good, you have shar, you have evil. Anyway, moving on. Min sharri ma khalaq, the evil of that which He has created. By saying this, we are saying, even though people might do evil acts, but all this is all in the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even though people might do evil acts, people might try to harm you, but remember, this is all in the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the creator. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has control over each and all of this, because He is the one that created each and every single thing. And another thing we can learn here about, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, min sharri ma khalaq, from the evil of all that which He is creating, that everything has a flaw. Nothing is perfect. Even the things that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, look at the sun, the moon, even the sun, even though it has so many numerous benefits, but at times it can potentially be harmful. Look at the rain. This is also a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it has potential harm. So when you seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from all that which He has created, all those potential things that could be harmful, you are seeking refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from those things as well. When a person drives a car, he has many benefits, but there is also potential harm. A person could get into an accident. So all those potential harms is also you are seeking refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from all of these things. When you say min sharri ma khalaq, same way a person is driving a bicycle, it's good for a person's health as well. But there's also potential harm. The person can fall over, can injure himself. So this is why when we say min sharri ma khalaq, from all that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, from the things that are seen and unseen as well. Then the next verse, so this is general. I mentioned last week, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He starts from min sharri ma khalaq, something which is general, which includes everything. Then it becomes more and more specific. In the next verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions, وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبْ, and then from the evil of the night when it becomes dark, or this is how it's commonly translated. So what is ghasiq? Ghasaq, it comes from the word ghasaq. That's what I mentioned, that this is, ghasaq is known as awwalul layl, the beginning of the night. One is you have sunset, and one is you have the beginning of the night. So Allah mentions, أَقِيمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِدُلُوكِ الشَّمْسِ إِلَى غَسَقِ اللَّيْلِ. Perform salah referring to one of the salah times. So ghasaq is that the darkness when the night becomes dark. So this is what ghasaq means. And then after, even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned ghasaq, the darkness of the night, again He emphasizes even one more step extra, إِذَا وَقَبْ, when it becomes dark. A waqab actually means something is so dark that things become invisible. And waqab is actually used for, example, in a mountain you have a ditch, or you have a hole, and something enters into it, and is no longer visible. This is referred to as waqab. So from the evil of the darkness of the night, إِذَا وَقَبْ, and from that darkness as well, all those things lurking in the dark. So we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the darkness of the night. So you look at the night. The night inherently has more evil and more bad things happen at night time in comparison to the day. Many crimes, theft, burglary, murder, so many crimes happen during the night. Even look at the hospitals, A&E, so many, they are flooded throughout the night. Friday night, Saturday night, all this drinking, alcohol, all this, it happens during the night. So inherently you have more evil lurking around during the night. People have this desire to commit sin more during the night. That's why we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the darkness of the night. Even people have a tendency, people don't like to travel during the night time. Even if a person has children, you don't want them to be out at night in comparison to the day. So this is why we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the darkness of the night. Even Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would advise his Sahaba radiallahu anhum, his companions, not to go out, not to travel during the night. Then this is min sharri ghasiqin idha waqab. Then the next verse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions, وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ, and from the evil of the women who blow on knots. So naffathat is the plural feminine form of the word and refers to many translators have translated as those evil women who blow on knots. Remember mentioned Labib bin Asim, many have referred here, commentators have said, is referring to the daughters of Labib bin Asim, whose help he solicited in trying to harm Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in trying to make a device to do the magic on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is and what does naffathat? It comes from the word nafatha. Nafatha is you have 2-3 different Arabic words. One is nafakha. Nafakha is to blow. It's right in the Quran here. وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ, when the trumpet will be blown. Nafatha is between blowing and to spit. There's no word for it, but it's between blowing and spitting. So you blow with a bit of spit. This is what nafatha means. And nafasa with a sin is to take breath. So tanaffas, probably it says hayatuka anfas, your life comprises of breaths. Every time you take a breath, a part of your life has gone. So nafasa means to blow with spit. So this is blowing with spitting. This is what nafasa means. And then after this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions that finally, وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ, and from the evil of the jealous person when he acts out his jealousy. Okay, here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He did not say in hasada, He said إِذَا حَسَدَ. He did not say from the evil of the jealous person if he acts out his jealousy, but He said إِذَا حَسَدَ, when he acts out his jealousy. So hasid is a noun. So nouns are dormant. And إذا حسد is a verb. So حاسد is a ismul fa'il, it's a noun, and is dormant, it's not happening. And إذا حسد is a verb, so it's manifesting itself. So from the evil of the jealous person when he acts out his jealousy. In other words, Allah is trying to say that when you have a person who is jealous, he will act upon his jealousy and he will do something. So we seek refuge in Allah from the evil of the jealous person when he acts on his jealousy. So before all the different problems that were mentioned, subhanallah, and then the root cause of all of those different evils are mentioned in the last verse. So we had من شر غاسق إذا وقب, and in particular this ومن شر النفاثات في العقد is been addressed here from the evil of the sorcery. But what is the cause of all this evil that happens? One of the root causes is jealousy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions jealousy in the final verse. Because of this jealousy, a person, even petty things, but because of jealousy, a person, he does evil things. You can't stand a person, gets a higher salary, or a person got a promotion, or a person got good grades. Then because of that jealousy, then we try and do, people try and do bad things, or take that person down, or try to get that person fired, or many things. All because the root cause is because of jealousy. And because in the theme of the surah, another thing, and a person when he does kind of acts out his jealousy, when he is jealous, and the thing that he will do, majority of the time, it will be unseen. I remember, a'udhu is used for things to seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from things which are unseen. So this is what وَمِنْ شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ, we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the jealous person when he acts out his jealousy. 2 points of balagha I'd like to mention here. That even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions in that from the different things that we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from, the first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions is مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ, from the evil of all that which he created. Now that has covered everything. So what was the need to mention after that? وَمِنْ شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ, from the night, and وَمِنْ شَرِّ النَّفَاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ, the sorcery, and وَمِنْ شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ, the jealousy. Both the need to mention. So from this balagha aspect, they mention تنبيها على أن هذه الشروع أعظم أنواع الشر, that to notify, to create awareness that these three categories of evil, of bad, are the greatest categories of evil. And the second reason, and another point of balagha is here, in Arabic you have two things. One is ma'rifah and one is nakira. Things which are specific kind of, and things which are general. So looking at one of the things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَمِنْ شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ, this has an alif lam. So this is specific. So why was this specific? And when then مِنْ شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ, this doesn't have an alif lam. Or وَمِنْ شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ, this doesn't have an alif lam also. Why مِنْ شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ? One reason is for this, is that any person growing or not, any person practicing sorcery, is definitely, this is evil. There will be no doubt. You can't have good sorcery, then this person is up to no good. But then if you look at min sharri ghasiq, not the night in itself is not evil. People do bad things, evil things during the night, but the night itself is not bad. Then with the hasad as well, you have two categories of hasad. One is dislike, and the other we learn from one hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He mentioned, لا حسد إلا كثنتين. There is no hasad except for two types of people. رجل آتاه الله مالا فسلطه على هلكته في الحق. That one person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed him with wealth, and he spends it in the haqq, in the right cause. فسلطه على هلكته. The expression that is used, he tries to halakati, he tries to get rid of it. He doesn't like keeping the wealth, but he just wants to give it away. So this quality a person possesses of wanting to give away the wealth and fil haqq, in the right cause. So this is the type of quality that a person is allowed to have hasad for. I'll explain what that means just after I explain the second type. And then second type of person is that رَجُلٌ آتَاهُ اللَّهُ الْحِكْمَةَ فَهُوَ يَقْضِي بِهَا. The person to whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given wisdom and he makes decisions by that wisdom. So here, what does hasad mean here? The commentators have explained, the mufassirun, the muhaddithun have explained. Now hasad, if hasad was to be permissible, then it would only be permissible in these two scenarios, in these two cases. Number one. So that explaining that. So the first type of person was that a person who has wealth, but then he's desiring, he always wants to give the wealth away. So when you look at a person and we have the desire to have wealth, the intention should be correct also. We should also have the desire to want to give away in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many times with people, we want wealth, we want to get more wealth here, but the intention is not there to spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to spend in the right cause. So if a person has this desire, then this is commendable if he wants to spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second type of person, to whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given hikmah, wisdom. Now there is a difference between ilm and wisdom, hikmah. A person can have knowledge of many different things. He can study sharia, he can study faith, he can study hadith, aqidah, hadith, all these things. But that will not make a person wise. Because just having ilm alone is not enough. Just having ilm will not necessarily bring a person onto action. And hikmah, al-hakim is referred to a person who has knowledge and he acts upon the knowledge that he has. And this refers to a person who is wise. Just simple example. You have knowledge that fire burns. So if you have knowledge of that fire burns, but you still end up touching that fire, you'll say that person is unwise. And as for the person who has knowledge that fire burns and he stays away from fire, you'd say he is wise. So that person whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given hikmah, that he has knowledge and he acts upon the knowledge that he has. And فَهُوَ يَقْضِي بِهَا. And he makes the life he lives according to that wisdom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon him. He acts upon the knowledge that he has. And also is mentioned in the hadith, وَيُعَلِّمُهَا النَّاسِ. And he also teaches this hikmah, knowledge and practice to other people as well. Just doesn't confine it to himself, but he also teaches others as well. So one of the commentaries on this, the muhaddithun explain that if hasad was to be permissible, then it would be permissible in these two scenarios. And another explanation is given that hasad here doesn't refer to hasad, jealousy, but it refers to hasad here is in the meaning of ghibta. Now, what is the difference between hasad and ghibta? Hasad is when you see someone with something and you have this desire that that person no longer possesses whatever he has. For example, a person has a lot of wealth, then you having hasad would mean that you have this desire that person no longer possesses wealth. Regardless of whether you possess that wealth or not, you just don't want that person to have that wealth. Whereas ghibta means that you still want that person to have whatever bounty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed that person with, but at the same time you desire that you can also have that blessing also. So ghibta is permissible, whereas hasad is not allowed. So hasad is a great evil, is a root of many, many sins. So we should always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in refuge, we should seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the evil of the people who act out that jealousy. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the true understanding of the Quran and ponder upon the meanings of the Quran when we recite the Quran. And inshallah next week we'll continue with the tafsir of Surah Nas. آمين وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.